Hello, I'm Adam from Roots to Fruit, and today I'm joined by the Roots to Fruit apprentice. This is Robert. Robert's usually behind the camera filming these videos for us, but today I need his help to talk to you about a particular type of plant, or plants. Now, when I was a little boy, there was a well-known TV personality. He was a professor and he was a botanist, and his name was David Bellamy. And I remember him saying this about this particular plant. He said it had been given its scientific name under the genus Urtica, because if you touched it, it was a plant that would definitely hurt you. The plant he was talking about was the stinging nettle. So, I want you to imagine that you've jumped into a time machine. We've gone back in history around 2,000 years, and you are a Roman soldier. You've grown up in sunny Italy. All you've ever known is what it's like to live in the Mediterranean. But now you've been sent to Britannia. You've been sent to Britain to conquer it and to invade it. But of course, once you get here, it's not anything like the Mediterranean, is it? A lot of the time it's cold, it's damp, it's always raining. And we have reports from history that Roman soldiers, when they arrived here, would take handfuls of the nettles that they found growing and would beat themselves with the leaves, stinging themselves deliberately, because they believed that the stings, the irritation and the hot rashes that they were getting from those stings were actually curing the rheumatism that the damp of Britain was causing to settle in their joints and their bones. And actually, the nettle has been used for many, many years as a herbal remedy in medicines for treating things like kidney problems and rheumatism. It's a really, really useful and nutritious plant. For thousands of years, human beings have made soups and broths and teas from the leaves. Superfoods that are really, really good for us. We can also use the fibres of this plant to make cloth and to make string. And yet, despite the fact that it grows everywhere that human beings are, that it is such a nutritious and useful plant, a recent report revealed that 50% of children in this country can't identify a stinging nettle on sight. That's a far cry from the children that lived here during the Second World War, who were sent out to collect stinging nettles so that they could be used as a dye for the camouflaged uniforms that the men who were fighting were wearing. So, nettles will grow wherever human beings are. They love soil with lots of phosphates in it, and that generally is a sign that the soil that they are growing in is of really, really good quality. So that's why we often find them growing around kind of rubbish dumps and compost heaps and in animal paddocks, because there the soil has often been disturbed and it's had nutrients and phosphates added to it that the nettles like to grow in. Therefore, as gardeners, they're a handy indicator that the soil we're trying to grow our vegetables in is good soil. So how do we recognise that we are in fact dealing with a nettle? Well, a nettle has these ovate leaves and has a drip tip at the end, and that means that when it rains or when water falls on it, it acts like a funnel, and the water is gathered in the leaf and runs down and off the plant towards its roots system. It's a heart-shaped leaf, isn't it? And its edges are really deeply serrated. The margins of the leaf there are deeply serrated, like you would see on a knife. The stem and the underside of the leaves are covered in hundreds and hundreds, thousands even, of these tiny hairs. Those are the stinging part of the plant. Each one of those hairs is hollow, and it's filled with formic acid and with histamine. When we brush up against it, that's what breaks off, stays in our skin and irritates it. That's why we want to scratch it and get rid of it. But as gardeners, the stinging nettle, if controlled, can be our friend. I've already mentioned it's a great indicator of good soil, but it will also attract into our gardens wildlife, insects and animals that are beneficial to us and help us, particularly when we're trying to cultivate vegetables. In a previous video, we discussed the holly and how that plant adapts as it grows to its environment, that it puts on prickles on its lower branches to protect itself from herbivores that might want to come along and eat it. And the nettle is no different in that it has these stinging parts to it, these stinging hairs, to protect itself from herbivores that want to come along and munch on it. But having said all of that, that's precisely what we are going to do now. We're going to take some nettles, we're going to cut them, and we're going to cook them up to make a tea, and we're going to try eating the leaves too. When we come to make our nettle tea, one of the questions that I'm asked quite often is, how many nettles should we be using? Well, a good rule of thumb is that whatever you're going to be drinking out of, you need to fill that with the nettles that you take. And that's a good measure of the amount of leaves that we need to be using. So, find yourselves a pair of scissors or some snips like this. You will, of course, obviously need to be wearing gloves. And then find yourself a healthy patch of nettles from which to take your leaves. I would always advise taking the top new growth. It's the young leaves that you're after. So that would ordinarily be the top 2 or 3 rows. If you go any lower than that on the plant, then the leaves tend to become quite bitter. So I'm going to start snipping away at these plants here, taking the young tender growth and popping them into my cup there. I'm trying to move across different plants so that I don't decimate individual plants, but just taking the new growth across several. So there we have it, a mug full of young tender nettle leaves, just the top 2, possibly 3 rows of growth. We collected our nettle leaves, and again, another good rule of thumb when making nettle tea is that our mug is the measure. So we collected a mug full of nettle leaves, and now we need to add a mug full of water. So a mug of leaves, a mug of water, and we're going to put that in my little kettle here on ready to boil. So I'll pop that onto my stove and we'll leave that there to boil, and when it is, you can come back to me and we'll do the next stage. Our kettle's boiling, so we're going to take that off the heat now. We'll just turn that flame off, put it to one side, just put the lid over there. Here's our nettle leaves. I did rinse them through with a little bit of water just to wash off any bugs or any other bits and pieces that might have fallen onto the leaves. And now we just add our nettle leaves to that boiling water, and we're going to let those leaves steep in there for around 10 minutes. Just giving them a little bit of a stir into the water. And straight away they're wilting, and those needles, the formic acid and the histamine in them is neutralised instantly in that boiling water. But I'll just put the lid back on and that will be ready in about 10 minutes to drink. Our nettle leaves then have been steeping for around 10 minutes now, so it's time for us to pour it out. I haven't got a little tea strainer, so I've had to bring this gigantic sieve with me, but it'll do the job in catching any bits if they should come out. So I'm just going to place that over the mug, and you can see that the tea is this beautiful green colour. Just pour that through. Just set my strainer to one side. Let's give this a try. I've had shop-bought green teas that are worse than this. That's actually really quite pleasant. It's got quite a distinct flavour to it, quite a distinct taste, but it is really good. It's really refreshing. It's a superfood as well. It's packed with vitamins. It's got packed with vitamin A, vitamin C, D, E and K. It's full of calcium and potassium and magnesium. That's all right, but I tell you what, I have made this before, and what really helps it is a little squeeze of honey. So I'm just going to throw a couple of drops of that in. Give that a stir. Let's try that again. Oh, that's better. That is lovely. It's actually a really refreshing drink. One of the things we could do as well is to actually try leaves, because they've cooked down in there now. So there we have it. Nettle leaves. Just give that a whirl. Spinach. It's exactly like spinach, but probably better for you than spinach. There's no difference between the two. A little bit of black pepper on there, a little bit of butter even, and you could throw that on your Sunday lunch and it wouldn't be out of place. There you go. Well, cheers. The stinging nettle then, great for so many things, and we've managed to avoid getting stung by it today. We've been double careful. But if we do get stung, is there anything that we can do about it?
So, Adam asked a question, is there anything we can do for a nettle sting? Well, yes there is. The dock leaf. Now, the dock leaf can almost always be found growing near a patch of nettles. This may contribute to the long-lasting belief that dock leaves can soothe nettle stings. The most common belief is that the alkaline sap from the crushed dock leaf neutralises the nettle's formic acid. However, this belief is actually false, as the dock leaves also have acidic sap. So you might be asking, why does a dock leaf heal a nettle sting? Well, the first could be that the dock leaf juice evaporating off the skin may have a cooling effect on the burning sensation. The second belief is that the dock leaves may contain natural antihistamines that reduce the irritation, although these two have not yet been identified as the cause to the healing effect of the dock leaf. Finally, the third reason the dock leaf has a soothing effect is because culturally we've always been told that it does, and therefore it's simply the placebo effect.
So, grasp the nettle then. Get out there and try making some nettle tea for yourselves. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised once you've tried it. So, keep safe out there and we'll see you again soon. So, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed that video, make sure that you give it a thumbs up. And we'd also be really interested to hear what you thought in the comments below. Also, you'll see that there's a bell icon there underneath the video. If you press that, you'll be sure to get a notification every time that we upload new content to this channel. But most importantly of all, the thing that really helps us out is if you press that subscribe button. So thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you all again soon.